Hello everyone, I'm Cameron Makarchuk here with Reengineer You, Strategies Worth Implementing, and I got a great episode for you today. But before we get into that, I just wanted to remind you guys that you can watch the live episodes as they're being recorded, as I'm sitting there with the guest right in front of the computer. You can comment and ask questions and all that great stuff right from your computer as we do the interview with the special guests that we have on every single week. And to do that, to be able to watch that, either follow me on Facebook, Google Plus, or Twitter, and that's going to be some links at the end of the video. But you can find me, Facebook at Cameron Makarchuk, or Google Plus at Cameron Makarchuk, or you can follow me on Twitter at cmakarchuk. But all those links are going to be for you right at the end of the video. So make sure you stick around and watch those. Watch till the very end so you can get those links. Follow me on those social sites and follow along and stay up to date. And as always, if you like the video and you like what you see in these episodes, I'd really appreciate it if you'd share it, pass it around, like it, plus one it, tweet it, stumble it, whatever you guys like to do with your social sharing networks. Just please make sure you do that because it really would mean a lot to me if you guys liked it, to share it and really get the word out there about what we're doing and the awesome content that we have from myself and from the people that I talk to on a weekly basis. Okay, so just make sure you do that. That would really mean a lot to me. And last thing before we get into the interview, I just want to talk really quickly about something that I have out for you guys right now. I'm really quite proud of it, and I want to just talk to you about it for one quick second before we get to the interview, and that is Extreme Fat Loss Blueprint, which you can see up above you here right now. So what Extreme Fat Loss Blueprint is it's essentially like being a client with me at my private studio. I've taken everything I do with my personal clients and wrapped it up into a nice little ball and given it to you in a website, which you can see here right now. And it's a completely comprehensive program. I've designed everything from the training programs for you, complete with video demonstrations of every single exercise that you can click right through the members area. You can watch them on your smartphone, your tablet, your computer, whatever you want. So there's no excuses. And as well as a very comprehensive nutrition program as well. So the exact same nutrition program that I've used with my clients to help them lose 20 or 30 pounds or 50, 60, 70, some over 100 plus pounds using the strategies that you're going to get in the Extreme Fat Loss Blueprint. Okay, so, and as well, there's some coaching videos in Transformation Academy. You can go ahead and watch those. You can see them right here, the transformation training, the nutrition program, and I go through, they're each about 30 minutes long, and I essentially go through everything that I talk about with my personal clients. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. It's a really great product, very comprehensive, and takes you through every step of the way from where you are today to losing 20, 30, 40 pounds, or even as much as 70, 80, or 100 plus pounds, because I've had everywhere in between. So it is by far the perfect program for you if that's what you're looking for. And everything's right there for you. So go to extremefatlossblueprint.com to check out more information on that and to see an inspirational story of one of my personal clients who lost over 103 pounds using this exact system. So make sure you check that out at extremefatlossblueprint.com. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode of Reengineer You, Strategies Worth Implementing. Hello everyone and welcome to Reengineer You, the show where we talk to some of the world's finest experts in the body and lifestyle transformation world and get their thoughts on answering the one question of what is the one thing that you can change today that will have the biggest impact on your transformation, whether that's body or lifestyle or fat loss transformation. I'm your host, Cameron Makarchuk, Master Transformation Coach, and I'm really excited to have our guest here today. He's a really great guy. I met him about a couple months ago, and he's just a phenomenal guy doing some awesome stuff. World-around expert in the world of kind of the stubborn fat loss sort of deal, and really good at helping people lose not just the first 5, 10, 15 pounds, because that's the easy part. Getting that stubborn fat loss, the fat loss that really sticks around and hangs around, and getting that hard fat loss that people seem to have trouble with, and really focusing on kind of the hormonal side of things and some carb cycling and things like that. We're going to talk about a lot of really cool stuff with him today, and I'm super excited to have Shaun Hadsall with us today. So Shaun, how's it going?
Going great, Cameron. Thanks for having me on, man.
Good. Well, let's just jump right into it. Let's maybe just start off, and I know some about you, and I know a lot of people know a lot about you, but for some of the people that don't know much about you, maybe tell us your background and where you started off and how you got into this crazy world.
Yeah, absolutely. I dove into the exercise side of things right out of high school just as a replacement for sports. So, obviously I had a passion for it, but when things really turned the corner for me for the health and fitness industry was 1998. So, 15 years ago, a famous contest called Body for Life by Bill Phillips, one of the best-selling fitness books of all time. And I was fortunate enough to be a second place finisher, a first runner up in the experience category in the 1998 Body for Life contest. So that served as a catalyst for a couple things. Number one, my passion to dive in, learn more, get legitimate certification, become an exercise technologist and a nutrition expert. And it also became the catalyst for me to understand that fitness is an anchor that can positively serve every other area of your life. And that was the big discovery I made through that contest, is that it's not just about the change in the mirror, it's the change on the inside. And so I'm really big on taking an inside out approach to fat loss, because I think if we start from an outside in approach, we're going to ultimately set ourselves up for failure. So once I finished first runner up in that contest, got my certification, I then ended up owning a couple personal training studios through a franchise in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we were very successful for 6 years. My wife and I owned those, and we were actually a top 10 franchise in the world for 3 years in a row. So we did really well. And but I wanted to expand my reach, and I saw the industry changing, so I sold those studios and went online, and got a couple other feathers in my cap. I was voted America's Most Fit Health and Fitness Pro by Club Solution Magazine a couple years ago, and then I partnered with a best-selling author who passed away, and I was fortunate enough through that process and that relationship with her to acquire the global rights to a proprietary nutrition plan called macro patterning, and that has what's really changed a lot of lives out there. It's just a fancy word for carb cycling. And so probably the biggest question that I get, and the most common questions I get in the gym and through my everyday activities as a fitness expert is, how do I get rid of lower ab or this belly fat? And they'll grab a hold of their handles on their waist or whatever. And like you said, it is easy to lose 10, 20 pounds. I mean, I could give you 1,000 different plans to follow and show you how to lose 20 pounds. I mean, the best plan to follow is one that you can stick to. Mm-hmm. However, as you lose weight and fat gets more stubborn, now it becomes a little more tricky, and we got to get a little more anal about things. And that's what I specialize in. And we do it through food intake, we do it through exercise, and we manipulate hormones, the metabolism in a natural and healthy way through this process. And through this process, we also teach people how to have a life. So it's one thing to be able to walk around with a flat stomach or maybe even some six-pack abs, but if you don't have a life and you're consumed by it and you don't have good balance in other areas of your life and it doesn't serve other areas of your life in a positive way and you become consumed with it, then it becomes unhealthy and it totally defeats the purpose. So I specialize in teaching people that balance. So, awesome. So since we acquired the rights to macro patterning, I've now written 2 online products or ebooks and systems that have cracked the top 10 bestseller list on the internet. And then most recently, you're fully aware, Cameron, we launched a new product called The Truth About Fat Burning Foods, which just hit number 7 on the top 10 bestseller list on the internet this week. And so here we are, and now I'm just on here with you, and I want to be able to provide your listeners and your followers with some great advice that they can walk away from this interview and go apply this stuff to improve their life and hopefully attack some of that stubborn, hard to get rid of fat, and at the same time still being able to eat some of the foods that they love, because that's what I specialize in. Is it's one thing, like I said, to get lean. It's another thing to have a life when you do it, and that's what I teach people how to do.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's something that's really important too, is that whole having a life aspect. Because yeah, you're right. Like you can definitely diet down and eat only fruits and vegetables and lean meats and blah blah blah, and get down to a good body fat and show off some 6-pack abs. But yeah, like that would be boring as hell, if you didn't have a life and couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants a little cheap food, everybody wants a little alcohol, everybody wants a little life, right? So
yeah, exactly.
And the thing is too, is most people don't understand that when, for example, I would get ready for a photo shoot, and I used to do some fitness modeling. I've been on the cover of a couple magazines and stuff like that. We really can only hold those peak moments in that look for maybe a day or two at most. I mean, we're manipulating everything at the last minute, the water, the lights, the tan, the oil, and getting every little line to pop. So to think that, to use that as an example of how you want to look is just unrealistic. However, with that being said, I have found a way, and since 1998, I've maintained under 10% body fat. Now, before that, I would carried over 15% for years. So it just goes to show you that it can be done, and you can still have a life when you do it. Now, you're not going to look like a cover model, but you can definitely have abs, and you can definitely have a flat stomach year-round using my philosophies.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point too, is knowing that, like, because a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, I want to look like so and so celebrity or so and so person in this fitness magazine or whatever, and they don't realize that, you know, everyone on those covers are like, they're manipulating everything right down to the last second that they go into that photo shoot, and it's not something that can be maintainable in that exact form for a long time. But yeah, you're right. If you can get down to like you're below 10% and be there, then that's a hell of a good body fat percentage to be able to maintain.
Yeah, and I think it's not, you know, I think most people too, when they think about me being able to do that, it's like, oh, you must not have a life. It's just not the case. I mean, I eat whatever I want 2 or 3 days of the week. Yes, I do make some sacrifices nutritionally, and I do eat clean, you know, 85, 90% of the time. But there's that 10% that I just absolutely let loose. And it's actually healthy for you both psychologically and physically. We can talk a little bit about that. But most people don't know that when you cut out carbs, you will lose weight. There's no question. You will lose weight because for every gram of carbohydrate you consume, your body will hold almost 3 grams of water. Okay, so if I put you on my deplete diet for 7 days and I take out carbs and I increase vegetables and friendly fats and protein intake to make up for the carb loss, you will lose a lot of water, okay? But you'll also lose a lot of fat, and you'll lose it really quick too as well. You'll lose both. In fact, I've had people lose up to 15 pounds in 1 week with my plan. However, the minute you add carbs back in, you add water back in, so weight comes back on. So you just have to be consciously aware of the fact that there's a big difference between burning fat and losing water. And that's why it's critical that low carb tactics need to be handled with care, and you need to have higher carb days built into the plan because it keeps your hormones happy. After just 5, 6, 7 days of low carb dieting, you will suppress the main hormones that control fat loss, like leptin. And you'll also suppress your body's ability to convert T3 to T4, which is your thyroid conversion, and that's the master gland in the metabolism. So we have to strategically add carbs back in at the right times, in the right amounts, and in the right combinations to actually keep hormones happy, increase fat loss. It'll actually increase fat loss, but it will also give you the opportunity to eat some of the foods that you love, which is what we all want anyway. So I think if you know going into a plan that, okay, if I'm good for these 3 days, I get a carb up day and I get to have my favorite foods, well, then you can make that sacrifice for those 3 days. And I think that you'll find when you do make that sacrifice for those 3 days, that discipline that you use, staying focused on that nutrition, is going to make you more productive in other areas of your life. Whether you're a parent, it'll make you a better parent. If business person, it's going to make you a better business. It's going to make you stronger spiritually, and it's going to leak over into every other area of your life. And that's not a maybe offering. That is a guarantee for those who stick to the plan. So then at specific times during the week, we add in what we call a carb up day. So we teach people how to actually increase starches and fruits on these particular days to enhance the hormonal response, like leptin in the thyroid, and also increase insulin sensitivity and to prevent metabolic slowdown. So because carbs are very anabolic and they impact insulin, and insulin is very anabolic, it is necessary at times to spike insulin with carbohydrates. You just have to be smart about it. And I think that's the big thing about macro patterning or my carb cycling, is that you pretty much can eat whatever you want. You just have to be smart about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big part of, I don't go too much into the carb cycling thing, but I do go by the 10% rule with my clients and stuff too. And then whenever I tell them, like, it is beneficial to have a good cheat day or a good carb up day, at least, once or twice a week, as long as it's strategically planned, they kind of look at me like I'm crazy. Like, well, if I eat all this food, like, how am I not going to gain fat? And how is that not going to, make me overweight and all that? So it's good to get another perspective on that and actually be able to hear someone else that does that effectively.
Well, and you have to make sure that people understand, who are listening to this or watching this, that they understand the metabolic benefits they're going to get from adding carbs back in and why it's necessary. It's not just about enjoying their favorite food, because that psychological advantage is huge. But if people are paranoid that it's going to sabotage their plan, then it doesn't taste so good, right? Now you're feeling guilt. So you need to learn to let go of the guilt associated with carb intake or bad food, and understand that when done intentionally and done strategically, it's going to enhance the fat loss process, and it's going to make your long-term journey a lot more enjoyable. So, a good tip that I could give people that are going to listen to this or watch this is just strategically on days that you just do cardiovascular activity, which obviously we all recommend higher intensity intervals versus steady state cardio. And there's benefits to both, but we know that HIIT or high intensity interval training will burn a lot more stubborn fat than steady state cardio, because it creates an afterburn and it impacts hormones. So when you do like a steady state cardio session, it only takes about 60 minutes afterwards before the metabolic rate is back to baseline or normal. When you perform high intensity intervals of 30 seconds or 30 to 45 seconds repeatedly with rest between, you'll release more of the hormones that burn fat, and then you'll get a 38 to 48 hour afterburn. But what happens on these days as well is you should keep your carb intake low. So on those days, avoid the starches in the fruits, because that's going to elevate hormones like catecholamines, which are just basically precursors to adrenaline. And so when we really release adrenaline, when we keep carbs lower and we incorporate a high intensity interval or a bursting session on that day, we're creating the perfect hormonal storm and metabolic storm for rapid fat loss and a way to target stubborn fat. So when we perform these higher intensity bursts, we release this adrenaline that can break apart stubborn pockets of fat and actually release free fatty acids into the bloodstream. And these free fatty acids can then be burned off with steady state walking or slow cardio between these intervals. And then when you couple this and you deplete carbs on these days, or you use what we call a deplete day, what will end up happening is now you've lowered carbohydrate intake. This is also a catalyst to releasing more catecholamines. So now, between the combination of the exercise and the nutrition working together synergistically, you can really attack stubborn fat. And then, and what we do with my 14-day rapid fat loss plan is we combine that with a carb up day. And those are the days where you're going to do a high intensity resistance training session, whether it's free weights with dumbbells, whether it's body weight training, whether it's any type, in CrossFit or Insanity or P90X, all that stuff is really trendy. I mean, we teach people how to get it done a lot more efficiently. But all those things, they do work. But it's important that in the post-workout window, you have a lot higher insulin sensitivity, and it's the one time where your body's muscles are kind of like a sponge that's been wrung dry, and it wants to suck up nutrients. So a great way to do this is to give it some starches and fruits in the post-workout window on these carb up days, and now you're going to get all the metabolic and hormonal benefits that I discussed earlier with the insulin, with the leptin, and with your thyroid. And then it also gives you a chance to eat the foods that you enjoy. And now this is a kind of a lifestyle that we can use. On days we're doing cardio, we're lowering carbs. On days we're doing weight training, we're elevating carbs. And then we throw in a cheat day. And now we have a nice balanced plan that anybody can follow.
That's awesome. That's a super good plan. That's awesome, man. So just to kind of bring that back around. So you're saying cardio or high intensity days, you're lowering those carbs down, focusing on foods like just your basic, vegetables, friendly fats, proteins. And then on the carb up days, you're focusing on what type of foods would you be eating for the carb up days? Like, maybe just give some examples of what type of carbs you're talking about.
Well, this is going to be a great conversation. That's a great question. Okay, because what's going to happen is there's two ways to look at this, and I'm going to go against the grain a little bit here. And most people, first of all, any type of non-processed fruits or starches are going to be great. I don't care what it is. If it's not processed, right, and it's a healthy starch. But most people are under the they think that white starches like potatoes and white rice you need to be avoided if the goal is fat loss. When reality is, if you're a high intensity exerciser, those starches are more desirable because they contain the pure glucose molecules that will fuel your anaerobic metabolism, like a process called glycolysis, which generates tons of ATP, which is our primary energy system. And it also glycolysis also increases your body's ability to digest and utilize carbs more efficiently. So by eating white starches in the post-workout window, like rice and potatoes, you're fueling your hormones and all these metabolic processes in a greater fashion than you would if you ate brown or black rice or you stuck to yams. Now, with that being said, brown rice and black rice and yams or sweet potatoes are all great choices, and you're going to get great results using any of them, but don't be afraid of the white stuff. Now, at other times during the day, like if you're going to go ahead and have starches and fruits or any type of starch, it might be a better idea to stick to the lower glycemic choice. But in all honesty, sometimes things like brown rice can be more problematic than white rice because of the gluten component in it. And where the white rice, although it's processed more, it's pure white starch. And same with the potatoes, right? It's pure white starch. So if you're not exercising intensely, then these rules change, and we go ahead and have you go towards the lower glycemic choices and follow more of a paleo type plan.
Right.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. So if you're doing the high intensity exercise, and you're talking like the weight training type stuff, like the CrossFit
yeah, body
stuff,
weight training, or high intensity training with free weights can burn a lot of fat. And if your goal is fat loss, you should not be afraid of having too much muscle. You should be afraid of not having enough, right? So lift heavy, use short 30 to 90 second rest between your sets. And as you go throughout your workout, you should be breaking a sweat just like you do with cardio. If you don't, you're not doing it right. And if you're that type of exerciser and you're doing that, you're rotating it with high-intensity cardio days, the macronutrient profile that you use on these days can greatly enhance the fat loss. So this is when carbs can come in and actually increase your body's ability to burn belly fat.
Yeah, and that's a big, the whole high-intensity resistance training, that's a big part of what we do with my clients too at the studio and online and stuff too. It's all kind of that more metabolic type of training,
metabolic
right?
circuits, they're called MRT. There's all kinds of names for it and whatever. Personally, I love me some free weights. I'm a dumbbell guy. I always have been, but I also know people don't want to go to the gym. They need to get it done. I'll be doing metabolic circuits this entire weekend for the 4th of July holiday here in the States. You know, because we're going up north. We'll be at a cabin. I won't have access to a gym, so my wife and I will be doing body weight circuits every morning, and as a way to get the desired effect that I just talked about metabolically. So
yeah, and that's a great thing about those types of workouts too. You can do them anywhere. You don't have to have a whole bunch of equipment. You can do them just body weight out at like you're going to do at the gym with just body weight with very little equipment. So that's awesome.
Well, and you have to keep in mind too. Now, not only will this change the way that you look, right? Because if you're a pear or an apple-shaped body and all you do is cardio and try to eat right, you're just going to become a smaller pear or apple, right? So we want to transform the muscle tone underneath so that when you burn off the fat, you have something lean and toned to show for it. So, many people are afraid of that whole bulking up syndrome, and and it's a lot of it is because of huge professional bodybuilders that do drugs, and we get afraid of that look. But you and I both know, Cameron, the truth is it's impossible to achieve that look without drugs. Yeah. So never be afraid of heavyweight training, and the bodyweight circuits or the metabolic circuits they're the same exact thing. They're just going to help you burn through more calories more quickly, which is always going to equate to more fat loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So we talked a little bit about the high carb days, the off days, the macro patterning stuff. Is there anything else you want to maybe mention about the macro patterning?
Well, I think that I don't want to dive too deep into it. I have a program called 4-Cycle Fat Loss where I actually take you through 4 cycles of fat loss, where each specific cycle is designed to overcome exercise and nutrition adaptation. Our body's very good at adapting. So if there's anything I want to add about macro patterning, using the method that I shared with you, where you do a deplete day and a carb up day, is going to be very effective as a long-term approach. But it doesn't mean it's the only way to skin the cat. So I wouldn't say this is the be-all, end-all. I have tons of different carb cycling plans where we increase other macronutrients besides carbs and do a lot of different things metabolically. So no plan is foolproof forever. I think the big lesson is to change or cycle your workouts and your nutrition every 6 to 8 weeks to keep yourself interested and keep yourself going. If you find a method you can use long-term and it's working for you, well, then don't switch it up. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But when you hit a plateau, that's a sign that you need to keep going and maybe just change things up a little bit. So that's what we do with the 4-cycle solution is the first day is a 7-day carb deplete diet. And the reason that we do this is I'm not a fan of low carb. I'm a fan of control carb. But in this particular week, we do cut carbs dramatically. And we do this for a specific person, for a specific reason. The majority of the people out there who diet or exercise or try to follow healthy eating habits, what ends up happening is over time their bodies become very dependent on burning sugars and carbs. They're really good sugar burners and carb burners because they fed themselves that type of food for so long because of the convenience of our world. What we need to do is we need to shut off those sugars and turn on their fat burning triggers. So we spend a week cutting out carbs. We increase intake of fats, friendly fats strategically. We increase vegetables and water. And we recommend supplementing during this week because you're going to be cutting so many carbs. But it'll shut off your body's dependence on sugars completely. And it will also program your body to make belly fat its primary energy source. So a good macro patterning tip would be to any time that you fall off track for 3 or 4 days in a row, like a 4th of July weekend,
yeah,
you come back and you want to get back on track again, depleting carbs and keeping them under 50 grams a day and cutting out starches and fruits for those 3 or 4 days in a row can do wonders for your belly fat. It's kind of like damage control. But you can't keep going and be afraid to add the carbs back in, because if you do, you're going to suppress all your hormones. You're going to get rebound weight gain. So it's important that you only do it for 3 or 4 days in a row. Now, in my 4-cycle solution, we teach you how to do it for 7 days, but you're following a detailed meal plan as well. So I don't recommend anybody try this on their own for any more than 3 or 4 days at a time. But it's a great way to undo the damage of a weekend binge.
Yeah, that's it's funny you say that, because I was away this last weekend. I'm in Canada, so this last weekend was our long weekend for Canada Day, and so same type of thing as Independence Day for you guys this coming weekend. And so I did the same thing this last weekend. It's been about 3 or 4 days of nonstop binging and much too much alcohol and bad food. So this is actually exactly my plan for the next 3 or 4 days: kind of cut those carbs back down to about 50 grams a day and get some hard training sessions in, and then start adding those carbs back in the next maybe 4 or 5 days. So yeah, it's funny you say that.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I would tell people a good piece of advice is to stay off the dang scale, because remember we talked about that water retention with carbs. So if you're chowing down on a bunch of bread and your favorite pasta salad and everything else that's in the buffet trade, or when it's a holiday, you should be able to let loose and enjoy yourself. I think it's mandatory. But you have to keep in mind, when you come back and go back at it, you're going to be holding an extra 500, maybe 1,000 grams of water on your belly. Yeah. So you want to really increase your water intake during these 3 or 4 days as well, and stay off the scale, because you didn't gain a bunch of fat. You might have gained a little, but you gained a bunch of water. And we can get rid of that in 3 or 4 days using this method. So then we want to strategically add the carbs back in, healthy carbs. And then another rule of thumb that we always have is, if the goal is fat loss, if the goal is to gain muscle or do other things, we might use a different approach. But if the goal is fat loss, never eat an impact carb like a starchy carb by itself. So anytime you're going to sit down to eat any type of starch, healthy non-processed starch or whatever it is, just always combine it with a protein. And by doing this, that's going to keep insulin at bay. Remember, impact carbs are going to spike insulin, and in the presence of elevated high insulin levels, it's impossible to burn belly fat. So, we want to do that purposely in the post-workout window a couple days of the week to keep hormones happy, but you always want to have protein with your carbohydrates. Never eat those impact carbs by themselves. So an example too, like a lot of people think that snacking on fruit is a great choice, and it is, but it depends on the type of fruit. Like if you snack on say you grab a ripe banana, well, that's pure sugar. Well, in the post-workout window, that's awesome with protein, right? But if you're snacking on it during the day all by itself, you just spiked insulin through the roof, and now that banana put you into a fat-storing environment. Even though it's a healthy food choice, it was just the wrong approach. Now, if we take a cup of organic cottage cheese or Greek yogurt and slice up the banana and put it in there, now we have a better meal, because now that it's pure sugar, it doesn't matter, because we've combined it with the protein. Now, the insulin spike is going to be blunted by the protein intake and the casein and everything else that's in that protein. So that's just a really good tip that people can use as a lifestyle.
Yeah, well, that's an awesome tip, actually. That's really good. Because, I often say that too. Like, I always tell my clients, never eat, like a very sugary type of thing on its own like that, because it's not going to create the right balance in your body, and that's not what we want. So that's good. That's a really good tip, man. So maybe, I guess, just as we kind of wrap up here, I know you kind of have some really good mindset and psychology type of type of tips too. So maybe let's talk about that a little bit. How do you keep your clients in the right mindset for staying on these types of meal plans and stuff like that?
Well, the one thing for sure that I have to strive is, you know, and it's kind of the theme of this whole talk, is that there's no such thing as perfection when it comes to a fat loss plan. So you need to just be consistent, not perfect. I'm going to eat bad when I'm not supposed to. You're going to eat bad when you're not supposed to. I'm going to skip an exercise session when I'm not supposed to. So are you. But most people, psychologically, their behavior or their analogy or their justification in their head is, well, I'm going to start next Monday. Instead, start tomorrow again. Just don't quit starting over tomorrow, right? One day at a time. And I think striving to be consistent, not perfect, when it comes to fat loss, nutrition, and exercise is the only way to approach it long term. And then understanding that guys like us who are fitness professionals, we're just like you. We're not motivated to work out all the time. We might be motivated to work out half the time. We just freaking do it anyway, right? Because we're fitness pros and we built those habits into our head. So, you know, one thing to really stay motivated, I think personally, is you have to turn your nutrition and your exercise not into habits, but into rituals. So, hold on one second here, Cameron. I gotta plug my computer in. So that, strive to be consistent, not perfect. Understand that you're not always going to be motivated. And then the other thing that I try to help teach people how to do is address the mindset side of things. Okay, so there's a lot of different sayings and tools that we could use. We're all wired differently, so we all have different personalities. So I think that you have to come up with a buffet of strategies that you can turn to that match your personality to keep you motivated. I personally have a ritual where I exercise first thing in the morning when I get up, no matter what, because I know what happens with the day. If I've scheduled it for 3 p.m. and business comes up, or I'm busy, or, you know, family obligation, and we got kids, and, you know, life happens. So schedule exercise just like it's a doctor's appointment, just like it's dropping the kids off at school or picking them up from practice, or just like anything else in your life that you would have to do, just like you're answering to your boss, right? Schedule your exercise the same exact way, and always try to accomplish that feared thing first in your day. I think, you know, I always write down what I call a win list. And it's 5 things that I want to accomplish on a daily basis, and I always want to attack the thing that I want to avoid the most is the one I try to attack first, because that's going to make the day seem easier. It's going to elevate my confidence, right? And it's going to increase my motivation and my focus. So, and I also recommend that people in today's day and age, we are being bombarded by interruptions in technology constantly. So I recommend that 4 or 5 days of the week minimum, you get alone, away from technology, and you just spend some quiet time with you. And for me, this is spirituality based. I'm a Christian, so for me, it's my God time. I don't care what your beliefs are, if you're atheist, agnostic, whatever it is. This will improve your life if you get away from technology. Now, there might be an exception to the rule, like if you have some meditation music on an iPad. And I always go to the dry sauna, and I take my iPod with me, because if there's somebody talking in there wanting to interrupt me, I can put on my meditation music and just be left alone. And I do think, I call this, you know, Tony Robbins called it the hour of power. Well, I don't care if it's just 15 minutes. I always try to do 20 in the sauna, and then I cool off outside. And I do a couple things. I watch a mind movie that basically embraces every area of my life. I read through goal cards, and we all have the same areas of our life to deal with. We have family obligations, we have relationships, we have health and fitness, we have business, we have career, we have money, we have spirituality. All these areas have to be dealt with. So when you're alone in this time, you need to think about those areas. And I have goal cards where each area is written on a goal card, and I have a goal for each area of my life. And what this allows me to do is it allows me to identify, oh man, you know, I've been a good husband lately. I need to get my head out of my ass and go take care of my wife, right? So by doing this, you get alone and you grow spiritually stronger, and you'll find that by cultivating your mind for just 15 to 20 minutes on a daily basis. I mean, I make it a rule. I try to do this at least 5 days of the week, and sometimes I make it 7. Sometimes I only make it 3 or 4, but I always do it every week. I know there's a direct correlation between the days that I do that and the days that I don't, my productivity goes through the roof, and I can get more done in 4 or 5 hours than I could in 8 or 9 on days that I skipped that time, because I planted the right seeds inside my head, and now I'm going to go throughout my day with a better attitude, and the problems that come my way or the adversities that come our way, which we're all going to have, just kind of roll off my back, and I focus on the positive. So that's, you can take it, any one of those tips that I just talked about, figure out what you like based on your personality and what's going to motivate you on a daily basis, and find that alone time. So that time is a cultivation time that will feed the rest of your day. And that's pretty much the best motivational tip I could probably give you in today's day and age. And then I would end it by what I call the law of 6-3-2. And it's 6 words followed by 3 words followed by 2 words. Do one thing at a time. That's the 6 words. The 3 words are do it right, and the 2 words are finish it. So do one thing at a time, do it right, and finish it. Multitasking does not work. Trying to attack 5 or 6 things at once does not work. So I don't care if you're a mom, you're a business executive, or you're a kid, or you're an old person, or anything in between. This applies to every one of us. If we don't do one thing at a time, do it right, and finish it, we're going to get bombarded and interrupted by constant negative information and negative marketing messages, whether it's on the TV, it's on the radio, or it's on our computer. It's like driving from where I'm at here in Michigan to Florida and stopping off at California. It's not very efficient, right?
Yeah.
So follow the law of 6-3-2. It's something that you should really take to heart in today's day and age.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are amazing tips, man. The one thing, like just kind of going back, going back to your alone time thing, that's something that I've been really implementing a lot over the last couple months, and the whole, like, try to do 10 minutes of kind of meditation, going over goals and stuff like that every night right before I go to bed. And I find that doing that right before I go to sleep, it kind of puts my head in the right mindset for when I'm sleeping, and then I wake up the next day and just really right on the ball and ready to go and focused on the goals and everything. And then also, yeah, like you said, get away from technology. That's been something that's been huge for me too, because I'm always attached. I used to be always attached to my phone, always attached to the computer, something like that. But now, over the last few weeks, I've been trying to go for, like a 10-15 minute walk just outside through the park or something, and just leave my phone at home and just walk and just go outside in the fresh air on a nice day and walk through the park and through the trees and stuff. And it's amazing how kind of liberating that is, to just know that you don't have your phone on you, and just know that it's, you're not going to get called, you're not going to get an email, you're not going to get anything like that. And it's surprising. It surprised me how liberating and freeing that whole process is. It is liberating, man. It is liberating, and you'll get your best ideas too. My wife and I went to Jamaica 2 months ago, and I had my phone in the safe, and it was like the 5th day there before I even pulled out my phone out of the safe to look at it in our hotel room. My wife was like, "Man, I'm so proud of you," but I'm like, I know we need to do that. If we don't do that, we're gonna go crazy. So it's really important, and you have to figure it out for you based on your personality, whoever, all the listeners out there. And the other thing I would recommend is, if you have a spouse or a significant other, there's a day once a week, Karen and I, my wife, we go on a date night, and we put the phones in the purse, and we put them on silent, and we make a commitment to give each other one-on-one time. And of course, my job is to just shut up and listen, because I puke all over her all week with business stuff and my life. But I never give her a chance to puke on me, and so that's her time. That's her time and our time to get away from technology. So you can carry that into any relationship or your life any way you want, but it does work. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. That's awesome. Well, let's kind of wrap it up then. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. I know you're quite busy and want to get ready for your vacation. So maybe let's just wrap up at the beginning of the show. I always like to ask, what's the one thing? So you gave a lot of really awesome tips and a lot of really great things today. What would be the one biggest tip, the one thing that would make the biggest impact on people's lives if they just made that one change today? What would be that one thing that you would say?
I would say it would be strive to be consistent, not perfect. There's no doubt about it. There's never going to be a perfect time in your life to get healthy, right? There's never going to be a perfect time in your life to do a healthy nutrition plan or follow an exercise plan. You just need to do it. You need to wake up every day and make a commitment to get it done. So, and even if you screw up, it doesn't matter. You need to start over the very next morning. I can't tell you, I'm sure you've dealt with this, how many clients you talk to, and it's just like, well, I'm moving here and I'm doing this, and so I figure I'm going to start, about 6 weeks from today, and that's just bullshit, pardon my French. You know,
Yep.
it's an excuse, and you can justify it in
Yep.
your head all you want. So strive to be consistent, not perfect, and make the change starting now.
Awesome. Awesome. Very good. And so then wrapping up too, I know you got a lot of great products. You talked about the 4 cycle solution and your 14-day fat loss. So where's the best place for people to go to find out more about you and all the awesome things you've been working on?
You know, there's a couple great resources. YouTube.com/get lean and 12, and that's just the number 12. Ton of great. You can go over there, subscribe to my channel, and just a ton of great content videos that will help you with these philosophies. And then I have 2 great article landers that you can go to and just get great free content and a free article. One is at 14-day-rapid-fat-loss-plan.com, and that's going to show you 3 simple steps to eat lots of carbs and never store them as fat, which we all want to do. And then the newest one is with my business partner. We call him the food investigator and nutrition. The guy's an amazing genius. His name's Nick Pino, and he has an article at truthaboutfatburningfoods.com. So just go over to truthaboutfatburningfoods.com. You'll land on an article lander there that will give you it shows you exactly why, like, things like in your kitchen right now, like your olive oil might be vegetable oil. And it probably is, and you probably just don't know it. So it reveals all kinds of little food tips like this. So go over there and check that out.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I had Nick on the show. He was actually on episode number 1 of this new show we're doing. So
Awesome.
he's an awesome guy. He had a lot of really great content for everyone. And so yeah, that's a great guy to have as your partner for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And yeah, and those YouTube videos, I mean, I'd highly recommend everyone go to your YouTube channel because I've been watching a lot of your videos too, and they're very, very good and very informative and very well put together. So I highly recommend people definitely go and subscribe to your YouTube channel because you've been doing a lot of great stuff over there. So that's really awesome. And I'll put all those links right below the video here for everyone too. So if anyone wants to go look at those or check those out, they should be somewhere right below this video, and you can go check out all Sean's great stuff. So that's about it. Do you have any closing thoughts there, Sean, before we wrap things up?
No, not at all. I just hope everybody can take some of this stuff and go put it to work on their bodies and in their lives, you know, because you and I both know it can be life-changing stuff. So I appreciate you having me on, Cameron.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Sean. This has been a fantastic episode, and I'm really glad you took the time out to do this for me and for our viewers and everything. I know they're going to get a lot of really great information and informative action plan steps to implement into their lives and help them transform their bodies and their lifestyle and all that great stuff. So this has been a great episode. Closing up, just go check out all Sean's great stuff. He's got a lot of really great products, a lot of really great articles and YouTube videos and stuff like that to help you guys transform your bodies and transform your lives. So go check that out. This is it for this episode of Reengineer You. I'll check you guys in the next episode.